Hi everybody! Hi Tamal! So we're continuing our series of videos covering WestWorld Season 1. This was a great season. I loved it. So many layers to the season. One of the layers you can see a lot of Buddhist elements in this Wild West futuristic theme park story. That's kind of weird.
It's weird, but Buddhism is very strong these days. It's very popular.
The Buddhism is strong in this one.
One of Buddhism's main ideas is the concept of samsara, like the internal cycle of suffering and rebirth. And endless,
Right.
birth and rebirth.
Right. Like basically like Groundhog Day, the movie, right?
Yeah.
You die and then you come back and you can't get out of this cycle.
And this concept is very apparent through the lives of the hosts.
How so?
Their days are like the same. They are being killed and
It's called
rebirth.
loops.
Yeah, they're in loops. They suffer. They usually, when they die like in a miserable way. They're being killed and then they're reborn.
They don't remember anything.
They don't remember anything. And
Nobody's happy there.
yeah, and according to Buddhism, that's because of the first noble truths of the Buddha when he gave these four noble truths.
Okay, which
The
is?
first one is life is dukkha, life is suffering. Dukkha in the Pali language, the Buddhist North Indian language, dukkha is like thirst. And life is like an eternal thirst, unquenchable thirst.
Right.
You are born to suffer.
Right. Suffering is inherent to life. You cannot. There is no life without suffering.
Suffering is essential to life, in every life. Everyone suffers.
It's universal.
It's universal.
It's a chemical thing in your brain.
Not only humans suffer, also animals suffer.
Right.
And in this world, the hosts are suffering, and that's like one of what makes them, alive. Maybe what makes human.
I think Ford specifically said that
The thing that led the hosts to their awakening. Suffering. The pain that the world is not as you want it to be. It was when Arnold died, when I suffered, that I began to understand what he had found.
So he's a follower of the Buddha.
and I guess everyone knows at least one person who never suffers, is always happy and cheerful. Everything is good, and you hate that person.
Yeah.
You know they're lying.
Yeah.
Because they're miserable.
Yeah, I
Always
hate this
happy.
person. I hate this person.
Prince Siddhartha, he figured out
Unstoppable.
that they are lying and they are miserable 2,500 years ago.
Wicked sick.
When he went out of the castle and he saw that you were bound to get sick and you're bound to get old and you're bound to die. So even everything that is good in life, it's only good compared to the suffering.
Yeah. Buddha defined this suffering as dukkha.
Dukkha.
And dukkha in Pali, the ancient North Indian language, where Buddha came from, means thirst. And that brings us to the second noble truth, that the cause of this suffering is the thirst. You can never feel your thirst. And what the Buddha said about this suffering is that this suffering is dukkha, is like thirst, unquenchable thirst, like a bucket filled with holes that you cannot fill, that you're always thirsty. Like even if you're hungry and you eat, you're satisfied for a few minutes, but then you'll be hungry again.
And basically, in the show, the park itself is trying to quench a thirst in the guests, like they're missing something in their lives, and they think if I will go to the park, I will drink something and I will be quenched, my thirst will be quenched. But no, we can see with Ed Harris's character,
I own this world, and I know every trick in it, except for one last thing. The same thing you were looking for when we first came here. Where is the center of the maze, Dolores?
now I will quench my thirst with a maze, but at the end there is no maze. Or this bandit guy who's robbing the safe, taking the safe, he's all like the entire season he wants to get the safe. But then when he gets it,
It's empty.
It was always empty, like everything in this world.
so you cannot quench that thirst. And at the very end, Ed Harris is so jaded with everything that the only time that he really smiles is when he fucking gets shot. At the end, he feels something and becomes so numb.
The Buddha didn't just diagnose the problem,
Right.
because that would be very depressing. That's okay, life is suffering, and let's just
But-
kill
But
ourselves.
Buddhism is not depressing, actually.
No, he also prescribed the medicine. He said, and the third noble truth is that you can be released from this
Right.
suffering. The only way to end the suffering is to extinguish the thirst. And you do that by meditating a lot.
And when you're meditating a lot, you realize that nothing is real, that life is an illusion.
Yourself is an illusion.
Right, so the robots, their lives are illusions. They're not real. They have memories that are not real. They themselves are not themselves. Like Maeve thinks she owns a barn, a haberdashery. But before she was a mother, maybe next time she'll be someone else. Dolores has one father, then she has another father. Even though there's a loop and everything is playing out again and again, it always changes. We can see that the music, like slight changes every time, like it changes in timing and changes in the music and stuff like that. So nothing is constant. That's
Nothing is
another
constant.
Buddhist element. Everything is changing, everything is fleeting.
Like you cannot enter the same river twice because the river is always changing. But the Buddhists will say you cannot even enter the river once because you are always changing. You are a constant change. There is not constant you. There is no self in Buddhism.
And you can also see this illusion in Ed Harris's character, the man with the black hat. like in the park, he's the ultimate macho, he kicks ass, whatever, he takes shit from no one, he's a fucking winner. But that's an illusion because in his real life, he's a loser. Like his wife killed herself just because she didn't want to spend another minute with him, and his daughter hates him, and he's always depressed, and he's playing games and stuff that he knows is so he starts out the story, he's kind of good and sensitive. By the end of the story, he's evil. So you ask yourself, who is this William? Is he evil? Was he always evil, but just acting for some reason kind? Or maybe later he's doing evil stuff, even though he's really inside, he's all warm and cuddly. Well, so in Buddhism, basically these questions do not matter. Now he's doing something that is evil, and now he's doing something else that is good, and there's no one William. Because I don't think it's by accident that they use like two different actors, and you don't see anything in between. So Ed Harris is different than Jimmy Simpson. It's like as if they're playing different characters altogether. They're not the same person. So this constant sense of want is interesting because want also means lack. So you're always lacking. So let's say we extinguish the thirst. What happens now?
We're being released from the suffering, we're being released from the Maya, and we reach
Samsara.
from the samsara, and we reach nirvana, which is the concept, and we reach nirvana, which is the Buddhist concept of being released.
Of heaven, like whatever. It's eternal.
Yeah.
You're always there. You're passive. You're not doing anything. You're just there. You're not even you. Whatever.
Yeah.
You don't even is.
Yeah,
It sounds like depressing, but it's actually.
it's kind of
said-
depressing.
But you said it's like for them, it's like being released. It's and you can see the desire to be released in some of the characters in the show, in the park, the host specifically.
I see you've already met your makers.
They don't look like gods.
They're not. They just act like it. And they've been having their fun with us.
I'm eager to return the favor.
You can do as you wish with them. The goal is to escape.
Maeve is trying to be released from her loop, and she wants to create her own story.
Right. She wants to go out of the park.
Yeah, and
That's
she
fucking
realizes her, identity is like a lie, and her memories are like a lie, and everything is like a lie.
And she's always suffering. and
She's always
wants to end the
suffering.
suffering.
And she,
But
but she returns to the samsara using her own, free will, whatever.
Right, she knows that her daughter is not real, and she's on her way out, but then she chooses to go back into the matrix and say, I'm gonna hang on to those things. So that's like really anti-Buddhist. You're supposed to let go. What are you hanging on to? Because nothing is real. But she hangs on to the lie. So that's kind of depressing.
Yeah. Dolores also wants to be released from this loop, and she also searches for something.
Right, that doesn't exist.
That doesn't exist, and when she
wants to go back to a time that wasn't really there.
Mm-hmm. And when she figures out that, the lie, that the reality is a lie.
Right, and William is basically her tormentor.
Mm-hmm. She, she's still there. She's still in the samsara. She's just, accepting like herself as the only real thing. Like her maze is herself, and that's kind of an anti-Buddhist message, because
I'm a New Agey Buddhist.
Your voice is the first thing I remember.
Do you know now who you've been talking to? Whose voice you've been hearing?
All this
Time. It was you talking to me, guiding me. So I followed you. At last I arrived here, the center of the maze. And now I finally understand. To confront, after this long and vivid nightmare, myself.
like the conclusion of the show, of the season, is like anti-Buddhist, because basically it says, okay, you can be released. You can be released from this loop, you can be released from this samsara if you die. So maybe it's like a criticism about Buddhism that being released is kind of being dead. This concept of the maze is very Buddhist. At the center of the maze, there is the enlightenment. So everyone, every character, or every conscious character in some way is searching for the center of the maze, to be enlightened, to be released from the suffering, from the thirst.
Right. But we see that the characters are choosing to let go of something and to cling to something else and going against Buddhism, and that could work in the story, that maybe they have another solution.
Yeah, Buddhism sucks.
But thematically, it would work better with Buddhist thinking, that now that the robots, now they won, now they rule, now everything will be okay. No, they will have other problems. Some of their wants will not be able to be filled, and they will have problems with each other, and they will be frustrated, and they will have just a new set of problems, and they would not be released. That's like bold prediction for season 2. Otherwise, no reason to do season 2. You could have ended the show here and just say, okay, now the robots won. But if you continue into another season, then they're bound to have new problems, and it will be more interesting if they are not, if their solution fails.
Yeah, it would be very boring if every character will be enlightened and just sit on some mountain and meditate all day, and like, the guest will come and say, hey, okay.
Because drama basically is suffering.
Yeah.
Even comedy is suffering.
Yeah,
you don't have story without suffering. So get ready for some more suffering, but I do hope that But I do hope that you did not suffer too much watching this video. If you did not suffer, please click like and subscribe to get all our WestWorld videos. And if you want to support our channel on patreon.com/GOT Academy, that will be appreciated. It would be appreciated, Itamar?
Very much.
How much? Would that quench your thirst?
No, I will want more patrons.
That's a lot. Okay, so we'll see you all next time. Bye, everybody!